Hey folks, we're about to go live, but give me 1 second. I gotta flip a switch somewhere real quick. All right, the joys of self-live producing. That's I just had to go to flip a switch on my monitor. But hey, you are here, folks. Welcome to the B2B Hour on AutoConversion. This is a monthly webcast series that we facilitate here for B2B marketing and sales professionals, business owners, leaders, entrepreneurs. Look, if you take your career, your profession seriously, you're in the right place. This is where you want to be. Today's Wednesday, October 20th. I'm Ryan Girardi. I appreciate you joining in to be here. Our general theme for the show is how to stay connected and engage with customers, strategic partners, and employees. We offer a unique product here on AutoConversion for you to do this, and we invite you to learn, network, and grow your personal and your professional brand and your network and your online reputation. You can see on my screen here, our theme for today is accidental entrepreneurship, blogging, and podcasting for your B2B strategy. I have a couple of guests lined up. We have Mitchell Beinhaker from Beinhaker Law. He is a practicing business attorney and advisor, and also a podcaster. He has a podcast called The Accidental Entrepreneur. So in a few moments, we'll have Mitchell up here for a discussion about his podcast and his B2B strategy. I will be doing the wellness mindset segment. This is a segment we introduced when we launched the show earlier this year. And I've decided to take on the segment myself today. So I will be doing that. And then following that, we have Mitchell will come back on, and we have a sales performance coach who you've met before here on the show, Ron Sandell, who will be joining us. And we'll be talking about accidental entrepreneurship. So all this is coming up and more. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right. We have arrived. Mitch, welcome to the show. Great to have you here.
Thanks for having me on, Ryan.
You look like a true pro in your studio. I think.
I'm a little unshaven today. I had some minor surgery yesterday. I'm supposed to shower tonight, so I didn't shave. So I apologize.
Look at you. Surgery, and you're back in the saddle, huh?
Yeah, it was a little minor thing.
I don't even know what shaving is anymore.
Yeah, well, pandemic and shaving don't really go together, do they?
No, it's kind of funny how that works out. So
yeah, I think I would wait a year and a half before I actually had even close to a beard. So.
You'd be surprised. I've tried growing a beard out before, and it never seemed to work. But then this time it worked, and now everyone that knows me says, "Can't imagine you without a beard."
Yeah.
So I get a whole new look. Well, hey, great to have you here. We've got about 15 minutes here.
Okay.
To chat. And then, like I said, I'll do a wellness segment, and then we'll have you back on, and we'll talk more about the idea of accidental entrepreneurship. So
sure.
You have a podcast, and I have it up on my screen. Let me just add it here.
There we are.
There we go. Beinhaker Law. But how long ago, I'm going to bring your podcast page up, The Accidental Entrepreneur. How long ago did you start the podcast? I see you're almost to 200 episodes.
Yeah, started it, I think, in February 2019. I was probably doing, I don't think we were doing one episode a week, but then pandemic hit and the world shut down. I deal with small business owners, so they were all basically closed. I have very few that were considered to be essential. And I just, I figured, well, either I'm going to sit in the closet in my underwear for the next year and a half, or I'm going to meet people. So I got on Zoom and I started going to all kinds of meetings and promoting, and I was getting introduced to guests left and right. So I got up to the point where we were doing 2 episodes a week. We release episodes on Tuesdays and Fridays. But starting November 1st, we're going back to once a week. So a lot of those episodes came about in a short period of time. And that's why we're up to, I think I've recorded 190 some odd episodes and have 180 something that have been released. So
now let me dig into your strategy a little bit.
Sure.
Cause I think from what I understand, you'll do like a weekly recording session, and then from that release different episodes. Is that how you get it done?
I usually record on Friday, so I'll record 2 or 3 episodes that Friday, and then schedule them out for release on whatever particular day that I keep a schedule, so they get scheduled to go out. And it's usually just one guest. I've had a few businesses that had 2 partners that came on, but most of the time it's just one guest.
Yeah. And I've started listening.
I appreciate
you
it.
had the guy that did the pop-up marketing. Was it Steven something?
Yes, Stephen Brooks, I think.
Brooks.
Yeah.
I think he had a British accent, if I recall.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Scottish, British, something. I've had people from all over the world on the podcast. It's been interesting because doing it remotely, it used to just be local. People would come and sit like you're at a table there, right? I would have a mic at the other end of the table, and there was no video in those days, and we would just talk. And then I started connecting with people all over the world because of the pandemic. So now I do it on Zoom. If you were in the other room, I'd make you go on Zoom anyway, so we could capture the video.
So even if you're in person together, you'll still do it on Zoom.
Right, because I have no other. I'm like you. I'm a solopreneur, do-it-yourselfer, so I don't have a big studio with cameras and everything.
Well, doing it yourself seems to be the way.
Yeah,
it's a skill set. So you said you started the podcast in February of 2019,
right?
Did you have any pre-qualifying skills and experience with audio, video, and digital media?
Nothing.
So you started from ground zero.
Yeah. I mean, I listened to podcasts, and then I saw a video that said you can do a podcast for $75, and I'm like, really? Don't you need like a studio and sound engineers and all kinds of equipment? So we at that time I had a bigger firm and other partners, so we invested like the $75 and bought some really crappy equipment. If you listen in the early days, you can hear the sound difference from when we switched. Now the new equipment I use is still probably under $500 all told, but now I have a good mic and I have a mixing board, and I have a better camera. I sometimes use a green screen, which is a little flickery today, but I got one behind me. I wasn't in those days. So, like everything, it evolves, but I spent a lot of time learning how to record it. Okay, now I have this audio file. What do I do with that? And then I had this video file. What am I going to do with that? And then now I have this great podcast. How do I get it out to Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, now Amazon, all that stuff? So I had to learn all that type of stuff, but you'd be surprised what you can Google and learn. So it took me time, but a lot of it's marketing for my own services, and I enjoy doing it. So I do have a couple of people to help me with the editing when I want them to, but for the most part, I have it pretty much down to a 30 to 45 minute time frame to do a whole episode. It used to take me hours. So
yeah, that's really good. So you've got, I call it the template, right? You've kind of got the
it's
format.
very templated. Yeah,
and you're just filling it in, and I like your plugs. You have the sponsor plugs in there. Those are
they're affiliate. We're just changing them actually for November. They're going to change to a couple of new ones.
And that's your voiceovers plugging them, I think.
Yep, it's my voice. I haven't asked anybody to do a read yet. At this point. But, if anybody's out there and they're thinking of starting a podcast, there's a lot you can do on your own. But if you template things and you kind of set up the format with the goal in mind, will I be able to keep doing this for a long period of time? That's one of the reasons why, like, you have guests also. If I was just doing a podcast where I got on the mic and spoke, I think a couple of months I would basically be out of things to say. So I was doing a 15-minute live Facebook thing for a while. I may start doing it again. I was doing it during the pandemic, and it was like a live update once a week. It was killing me every Wednesday. I'm like, I got to come up with something for tomorrow. And it was only 15 minutes. So that's why I do the interview format. And I find people interesting in terms of telling their stories. So if you're building a podcast, you got to keep that in mind.
So going back to when you launched it, what was just bring us into your mindset. What was your thinking? What was your objective? What were your expectations? Let's break that down a little bit. You saw it as my business needs a podcast?
Well, I mean, I was more of an evolution. I don't know if it was this was our whole plan. So I started doing it because like I said, I liked podcasting. I liked the platform. I do put up blogs and things like that, but I'm not a big writer. I prefer to speak. And we were going to do things on law, like if you have to go to municipal court, you need to sue somebody, you're a business owner and you can't afford to hire an attorney, because I don't know about where you are, but in New Jersey, if somebody owes you, let's say under $5,000, it's going to cost you 2 or 3 times that to sue them. So, so we were doing all this kind of stuff. And then somebody says to me, I don't remember if it was my partner or client, that all this law stuff is boring. Nobody wants to listen to it. So I'm like, all right. And we were scripting it. I mean, it was a lot of work. So I was like, that's not going to work. So I called a friend of mine, my friend Jack, who's actually the guest on our first 2 episodes. And I had him come to the office. I didn't even know what a podcast was in those days. And we sat on the mic and he told his whole story. 2.5 hours. I boiled it down to 2 1-hour episodes. And it was fascinating. So he said to me afterward, you're really good at this, interviewing people. And I said, well, it's easy. You're telling the story and this and that. So then I'm like, you know what? That's what we're going to do. I'm going to interview people and tell their story and share their knowledge and the trials and tribulations of their experience. So then I didn't even have a name at that point. So then I was like, well, what am I going to call it? So a lot as a business attorney, I deal with a lot of problems that business owners are facing and that cause them either a lot of pain or to actually ultimately go out of business, right? And a lot of it is because of the accidental nature of the way they do things. They don't do things with a written business plan. They don't think things out. They want to avoid knowing their numbers and, really the left brain side of the whole equation, because we're more right brain people, right? We like the creativity and all the stuff that goes with it. So then I think I saw an ad for like on Netflix you remember there was an old movie called The Accidental Tourist.
Oh yeah.
William
I'm not
Hurt
familiar
starred
with it.
in
Okay.
it. You're younger than me. So, and I was like, the accidental entrepreneur. That's the problem.
Yeah.
All these people do this stuff by accident, and that's kind of where it came from.
It's very catchy. And folks tuned in, when we bring Mitchell back on, right now I'm focused on his podcast, but we're going to actually talk about the idea of accidental entrepreneurship. I have Ron Sandell coming on, who's kind of in a cool stage in his career because he's in a profession, with a company, and he's got entrepreneurialism on his mind. And so he's got a unique track to get himself there. So it'll be a good conversation for all three of us and everybody tuned in.
Yeah.
So it's just, I think if the fact that you listened to podcasts at the time is probably what maybe prompted you to think I should do this too.
Oh,
did
you
know what you were getting into? Like, did you know the technology that you were going to have to hurdle and hurdle through?
A little bit. I mean, I knew I needed a mic and I knew I needed some way to get the sound into the computer. And I figured I probably need a mixing board if I have, 2 mics and somebody on the phone and things like that. So I started watching people's videos. Pat Flynn's a big podcasting guy on YouTube. And there's a lot of other people out there, sound guys and radio guys, and they put out videos all the time on equipment you should use and how to do this and how to do that. So I started, look, there was issues I dealt with, like you and I were talking before. Sometimes you hear a guest will be calling in or on the phone and they will hear their voice, 2 times. And there's ways to work around that. It took me a while to figure it out because none of the videos were that specific, but yeah, I just enjoyed the platform of talking to people and be able to create and learn about the stuff. But I'm a lawyer. I'm not a sound guy. I've met some sound people and they start talking to me. I'm like, look, you might as well be talking Japanese. I have no idea what you're saying. So just tell me what I need to do to fix this and I'll do it.
Yeah.
So.
Now I'm curious, did you hit a point when you went into it after a few months? Did you hit a point where you're like, I can't do this anymore, it's not worth my time? Or is it just always really synced up for you?
No, I early on, I realized that I better design this thing so I can do this in the long haul, right? Because I realized that, I'm going to run out of content. But if I'm going to do this thing, I didn't want it to be something where I did 8 episodes and I dropped it and I never went back to it. I had started some other shows that I've since dropped. One was called Let's Talk Legal. I was working on a medical one because I deal with a lot of doctors, but it was just too much. So I've never been that way, but I knew that I learned very early on from some friends who are podcasters also that the magic of content, not just podcasting, but the magic of content is a long game, right? So just like you have the B2B Hour, putting out 2 or 3 episodes and posting them on LinkedIn and Facebook, probably not going to get a lot of play. But as you get out there and you bring more guests on and your podcast goes around the world and you bring on people that have more following than other people and you build it up, it will happen. But you can't, you got to keep, I would say it, you got to keep playing in traffic if you want to get hit, right? So you can't stop that. So if you're going to be a podcaster, and I knew this pretty early on, I would have to build a platform and create a show that I felt that I would be committed to and not like the Thursday morning update I did where I was just like I was breaking out hives on Wednesday night, so therefore I designed it so I could stick with this in the long haul. And it is the center of my wheelhouse when it comes to marketing. I mean, it's the main thing I do. As a lawyer in New Jersey, I can't just call people up, show up at their business and say, hey, I'm the local lawyer. If you need a lawyer, they might be fine with that, but they could also report me to the ethics board. So I don't do that. So I need content, and it's my way of content marketing.
Yes, and you're kind of honing in on a point that I do preach, which is when you call people or reach out to them to sell your product, as an example, to pitch your services, you're gonna get rejection, you're gonna get dismissal, you're gonna get a lot of no.
Right.
Probably 95% no. The
Right.
timing's not right. I'm not interested. But calling someone to say, hey, I have a podcast. Okay, would you like to come on and be on the podcast? You're going to get like a 90% yes.
Oh, it's a great marketing tool.
Right. So you see it that way. Did you know as you were getting into it that's what
I knew I could use it to approach bigger businesses like in New Jersey. Business gets Family Business of the Year. They get an award. I could reach out to them. As an attorney, I wouldn't want to do that for legal services. But yeah, I mean, ever since then, I've now gotten kind of in the loop of all these talent agencies and these PR people, and I'm getting guest recommendations, multiple ones on a daily basis. I don't accept them all, but they're usually pretty good. So I've met people from around the world because of all the people that I'm connected with. And that brings me business all the time, because there's always somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody else who needs some advice, needs some help. And they call me because they think of me first,
Yeah. Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
So, well, good. That's why I wanted to have you up here, just to give people a chance to kind of hear it from somebody else. Because anyone that knows me, I'm saying the same thing. I do argue that your blog is your most important asset, and because a blog is like, it's a container. You can embed
Right.
videos, you can embed podcasts, you can have writing. What's great about podcasting is people can listen to it while they're like watching their kids do sports, or if they want to be antisocial.
Right.
But sometimes it's just background noise, and so the message gets missed. So I do put out the argument that blogging is important too, because sometimes
I agree
reading,
with you 100%.
People need to read stuff sometimes.
And when it comes to the podcast, so I put a blog goes up on my website for every podcast with all the show notes, and so it's searchable, right? Because right now I don't think there's any way to search audio. And if some people could I don't do it, but some people could transcribe the whole show and put all the notes in a blog. But then you got to clean it up. It's a lot of work. But yeah, I mean, content's king. So yeah, if you're creating a podcast, you're missing out if you're not converting that into some sort of a blog post.
Absolutely. Well, folks, Mitchell Beinhaker here from Beinhaker Law, business attorney and advisor, and now podcaster as well. Check his podcast out, The Accidental Entrepreneur, on all your favorite podcast apps. And you can also go to beinhakerlaw.com, if I'm correct. Yeah, .com to check out his website. So Mitchell, thanks for taking the time. I'll look forward to having you back on in about 10 minutes.
No problem.
Do a quick wellness mindset segment. We'll bring Mitchell back on. We'll talk about accidental entrepreneurship. We'll have Ron Sandell on here with us as well. So hang tight, folks, and we'll be right back.
Thanks, Ryan.
All right. Should be ready to get back into this. So, wellness mindset segment. We've had some great practitioners on over the past few months. When we do this, it's a 10-minute segment, and I ask people that have something related to health and wellness and mindset. Mindset's so huge. You heard me asking Mitchell about, did he hit any walls or levels of burnout with the podcast? So many people I come across say, hey, I'm starting a podcast, or I've started blogging, and I chuckle internally, because I know that and you heard Mitchell say, like, you have to justify the ROI. And that can be tricky to do. And that ROI means it has to be a good investment of your time to put into the process. So what are some things you hear we talk about burnout a lot? I talk about burnout a lot here. What are some things that you can do to avoid burnout is one thing, but also really have I'm not a big fan of the idea of balancing. A lot of people we think of maybe balancing our work and our family and our personal life. But if you think about it, that's kind of stressful itself. You ever try to juggle? I can juggle 3 balls, but I can't juggle four. So I think that's the same thing with our business, our profession, our careers, and every aspect of our lives. It's not so much about balance. It's really about integration, integrating these things into your life so everything is cohesive. What I want to do is just share what I do for my own mindset, for my own wellness mindset. You see here, I have the website up, Org. This is a project I started on earlier this year. I'll go to the About Us page, and what you'll see, it says this site will eventually feature all 81 passages or chapters from the book Tao Te Ching, which is ancient Chinese writings that speak to speaks to a lot of different things, right? But one of the themes in the Tao Te Ching is the practice of non-ado. You could translate that to meditation, but I would also throw in the idea of wu wei into there, which is the art of letting things happen. We live in a hustle bustle world, very competitive, very demanding. And I think that we've all, especially, I mean, I'm a culprit myself, we've all bought into this idea of success and worldly influence, if you will. We're all striving towards these things, and I think there's a problem with that. And that problem is, what's our nature? What's the that I like to use the term mystical connection that we have with Earth and the universe. Um, these things are important, and I think, I live in the suburbs of Chicago, so I don't get to see lots of stars in the cosmos, and that creates a disconnection from the universe that we're part of. So here's why I bring this up. You can see I've got the first 65 published. I do about 3 to 5 every week. Usually on a Sunday, I put these up there, and they're short. I'm just going to this one here. Okay, that one's pretty much like just a paragraph. Let's go into this one here. All right, you can see it's short prose like that. And the reason I put this up here is this. I spend anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes most days with a prayer and meditation routine in the morning. Coincidentally, I didn't do it this morning, and I can feel it. I can feel the tension that builds in my body, the stress that accumulates in my mind. All these things build up, and I can feel those things. So for me, I have a routine that involves a certain program of prayer, and it includes reading every day. I read 2 passages. I read the one that I read yesterday, and then I read a new one for today. And I do that because it plants kind of, subconsciously, it plants a track in my mind for that day and allows me to try to contrast this material, almost corporate real world with something more of mystical in nature. And that's part of my routine. And that takes just a couple of minutes to read that. I combine that with my prayer exercise, and next thing you know, 20, 30, sometimes 40 minutes goes by. That's a very important part of my day. So should you use the Tao Te Ching? Well, I think so. But if anything, I think you should have a routine. If you don't have some sort of daily routine for mindness, for wellness mindset, is a term I like to use, then consider this a prompt, a call to action to do that. I've even gone so far as to putting it in my writing. I'll just show off here. I've launched a new newsletter. It's called Ryan's Freedom Stack. It's a personal newsletter, blog, and eventually a podcast for me to focus on. In this case, what I'm focusing on are existential aspects and socio-political aspects. So I'm taking the challenges that we face socially and technologically, and looking for an existential silver lining in there. and you can see in that work, as an example, here's the latest post about not being the virus anymore. And you can see down here, I'm incorporating the website and the Tao Te Ching into my writing as a place to free your mind. So I wanted to take a minute to share that with folks and let you see, well, something that I have going on that can benefit you if you put the time into it. I like to say it's like exercise, or it's like brushing your teeth. Let me go back to here. Sorry about that. Let me bring it here. It's like brushing your teeth, right? It's something that you just do, and if you don't do it, you know it, you can feel it. You know when you didn't exercise. You know when you didn't brush your teeth. You know when you didn't meditate. You know when you didn't do your wellness mindset routine. So I hope that helps. And if that's of interest to you, then head on over to daoteching.org and check out the subscribe section there. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch over. I'm going to bring Ron Sandell up, and I'm going to bring Mitch back on as well. It's going to be the three of us in just a moment. And bada boom, bada bing, gentlemen.
Hey.
Ron, great to have you back.
Thanks for having me, Ryan.
Yes. How's your day going?
It's going pretty crazy.
I see you're tiled in on your phone, it looks like.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Not a lot of balance going on just yet, so working on it.
Well, meet Mitchell.
Ron?
I think
Hey,
you got a chance to hear Mitchell and I talking. Now, Mitchell doesn't know this, but Ron, I don't think you're going to mind me sharing this about kind of where you're headed with your coaching career. But Ron, as I said, he's your regional sales director for a medical equipment company, right? That's accurate.
Correct.
So, that's a lot of time. That's 40, 50, 60 hours a week. You've got to hire people, train people, mentor them, and develop them. And Ron is thinking about can I say retirement? I mean, it's not like that's near, but he's thinking about
his
what's
next career.
Yes, his next career.
Next step.
Retirement means he's not working anymore.
Yeah, your next source of income. So what's unique for Ron is he's got time. I think you got like 7 years is your goal to really get that part of your business launched. And after a few dialogues with me, I convinced Ron he should commit to a monthly blog. And I think, Ron, you found out how difficult that actually can be, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
So enlighten me and Mitch here about, tell us your pain in that. Because, Mitchell just kind of went into podcasting, and now it's been 2 years that he's been doing it. And I know it's not an easy road, but tell us about maybe the mountain that you faced up against, Ron, with just the idea of blogging once a month.
Sure, I'd be happy to. I was taking a ton of notes, so if you see my eyes go down to the page, it's because I just want to reference all of the good stuff that I heard you, Ryan, and you, Mitch, say in your earlier pieces. But, a couple of things I thought about was accidental or planned. Like I'm trying to plan this out, but as I think I'm learning more about how to prepare for the future and live in the now, I think I'm learning that there's so many things happen accidentally. Who you get connected to, who you listen to, who you follow, who your mentor is, your coach, your friend, and all these things. And everybody tells you different things. So planning is really, really hard when you're trying to make sort of a transition, if you will, ultimately. And I think the biggest challenge for me has been, I agree with you about the blog, and I agree that a podcast may be something I would like to do at some point in time. I'm actually a pretty decent writer, I think, but with all the stuff I have going on with my full-time job and hiring 3 new people, salespeople, and training them in roughly the same time, and the travel and all of those things, not to mention keeping the current team motivated, challenged, educated, selling, and all of those good things that I have to do all the time. It just kept finding that the writing kept getting pushed down on my quote to-do list. So my questions to myself were, well, why do I want to do this? And in working with you, Ryan, and talking with you, I learned what the why is. Like, why do you want to do this? Why is this beneficial? What's the value in taking on this pretty big project in terms of time and planning this thing out for the future. Then the questions I asked was, can I do it? Do I want to learn how to do it? Or do I just want to delegate it to somebody who's an expert? So a mentor of mine a long, long time ago once taught me this valuable lesson, and it has to do with strengths and weaknesses and building up your strengths or building up your weaknesses. And he said to me, he said, keep working on your strengths. If you work hard on those, they will get even better. And be careful that you don't work too hard on your weaknesses or your developmental needs, because in some cases you can spend so much time trying to improve your weaknesses that you'll only actually have a very incremental increase in how good you get at something that you're not already that good at. So I just bit the bullet and started, working with someone to help me create that content. As Mitch had said, content is king. Yep. I would agree. If you don't have it, you have to find it. And if you can find a way to get the content and then have somebody who can do these things very quickly, put that into a blog for you, I just think that's a huge value. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do with my business right now, is to start to gain more content, or acquire more content, find more content, and then really start to produce it somehow into meaningful content that people will want to listen to hear, to follow, and to be a part of.
And that is the ultimate challenge, is getting people to receive. I'll use the word consume what you have to say, relate to it. Mitchell, how do you know?
Yeah.
How do you know if people are relating to your podcast or not? What are your signals or metrics that you look for?
Well, I mean, I can tell downloads that it gets. I know, I think we crossed 10,000 at some point. I probably get anywhere from, 50 to 500 downloads, depending on the guest. But a lot of it's feedback that I get from talent agencies that want to get people on the show, from former guests, colleagues, people that I know in networks around the world. A lot of people, have been resonating with the show. And I think it has to do with being consistent with the content and the message, that you put out. So I'm pretty strategic about who I bring on the podcast. I want them to have experience, to be able to share, former careers and what they're doing now and what they learned from then and what the lessons and advice they can share with other people. There's nothing wrong if they were an accidental entrepreneur and now they're more strategic about it. But so I think that, look, I wish I had more metrics. I can also tell where it's coming from in the world. Most of it's in the United States and Canada, some over in Asia and Europe and Australia, because I've had a few episodes in those different locations. But for the most part, that's where they're coming from. And I think most of my listeners, I hope, are people that are either small business owners, founders, startups, entrepreneurs, something like that. Or they just like to listen to my voice. I have no idea. But
is your audience defined on paper?
Is my audience defined on paper? No, not really. I know what the audience I'm trying to reach, and I keep that in mind when I'm creating the content. It's obviously wrapped up in, trying to reach the people that are potential customers for me, clients for me. But I'm, not New Jersey. As a lawyer, unlike any other profession, right, you're kind of landlocked. So I'm barred in New Jersey. So I can meet somebody from Oregon, Texas, Oklahoma, California, and I can't do a lot for them. I do some federal tax planning. I'm involved in some different strategies and so forth. But for the most part, it's New Jersey. So, I reach a lot of people that their content hopefully resonates with other people that maybe need my services, my advice. I do some business advising as well, as long as they know I'm not really a lawyer in that case.
That's a good point. In your case, you can't provide you're geographically limited on who and where you can provide your service, but your strategy, you can't filter it. The only way you could localize your podcast strategy would be as if you focused on guests that were in Jersey, right?
Yeah.
And subject matter, but that could be.
Yeah. I'm working on some series. I'm working on a craft brewery series right now because I'm a beer aficionado. And there's plenty of breweries in New Jersey. I don't have to go anywhere else to fill up an 8 to 10, series on craft brewers, and they could all do business with me. So those I'm going to stick with locally more so than not.
You could even do the recordings there.
I was thinking about that. A lot of my equipment's portable. I just put it in a bag and I wheel it. And now that pandemic's breaking, I might do that, because then I'll probably get, free samples if I go. So I test the merchandise, and we'll see.
So let's segue into the idea of accidental entrepreneurship, because I'll go back to Ron. I think he's the opposite of that right now.
Very much so. Yeah, he's in a good position.
He's got a 7-year plan to build a new business. Now, there's a common denominator for the three of us. I don't know if you guys know this, but it's Lance Knobb, Dr. Lance Knobb, who's connected all of us through his weekly podcast, The Hot Seat. Have you guys crossed paths on a hot seat yet? Okay, so this is the first time you guys.
Were you on my show when I was on?
I think I was. I don't know.
Maybe.
There's been so many.
It's on Clubhouse, so I can't see anybody. I just hear them.
Yeah, Clubhouse is challenging sometimes with that. But yeah. I think I was. Can't remember.
Yeah.
So, folks, what I'm talking about is every week, every Thursday, one of our colleagues, Lance Knobb, he does a clubhouse, a 1-hour clubhouse called The Hot Seat. And then he brings people on. I've been in the hot seat. Mitchell's been in the hot seat. Ron, have you been in the hot seat yet?
Yeah, when I first started, that was my exposure to it. And it was really challenging, but a great learning opportunity. Yeah,
it's great. And so, being in the hot seat, you get to kind of put forth where you're at with your business, your model, maybe an idea or a problem you're trying to solve, and then you get feedback and input from the others in the room. So that's actually what we've all been doing. And Lance offers his Jolt session, which is a 2-hour session to basically come up with your business plan. Yeah. So, Ron, you've started on that process. When you look at your business plan that you're started on, how complete is it in your mind? Are you at 50%, less than 50? How complete is your business plan right now?
I would think it's much less than 50%, even though I framed it out in the document. I think in terms of completing it, because I do have this long runway in front of me, so that's a blessing and a curse at the same time. So it's great because there's no pressure for me to build out this business, but at the same time, that can be limiting and a barrier to success and growth and so forth. So I think that's been the real challenge. You talked about balance and versus integration, Ryan. And, I'm trying to balance or integrate this long-term business plan into my life, but both my professional life and my personal life. So it's a bit challenging. I mean, if I were forced to do this, if I had no other job or income or anything like that, I would be doing things very differently at a rapid pace. And I would be learning things on my own. I'd be forced to. I have the luxury now to sit back and look at it in many different ways and sort of analyze what is the most valuable use of my time and where it makes more sense to basically delegate certain tasks and ideas and things like that. But I'm doing a lot of listening and I'm doing a lot of learning and a lot of researching, not a heck of a lot of action right now, but it doesn't mean I'm not working with people and honing my trade. I mean, I've been a sales and performance coach for basically my whole career, whether I was a leader of people, salespeople, or a mentor or a trainer, or even just a peer and a very, thoughtful team player type colleague. I've always been working with people in the business world. So it's kind of something that's fairly natural to me.
Ryan, can I chime in a little bit?
Yeah. And I want to ask you a question, Mitchell, to really get into that, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, I just want to bust a myth. So we take a little pressure off of Ron as well. There is no such thing as a completed business plan. It's an oxymoron, right? So your business plan if you think it's complete and you put it on a shelf, you're missing the whole point, right? So your business plan is a working, living, breathing document. It's something that you should go back to that will grow, that may grow into multi-volumes. Maybe you'll have a product and services manual. Maybe you'll have another piece for employees and like a handbook of some sort. You may have a marketing guide and a financials section. So, and you can start with as simple as a one-page kind of a thing, which I'm sure Ron started with. And you have the luxury of time. So you're doing a lot of research, and that is great. A lot of times people don't have the luxury of time, and they're doing a lot of stuff at the same time, and they skip a lot of steps that they feel they have to skip. But ultimately, I think it comes back to bite them. So if there's anybody listening, don't feel like you should go out and finish your business plan. It's something you should work on a monthly, quarterly, whatever basis, depending on the stage in which you're at in your business.
That's great advice. For what it's worth, because I use Lance's Jolt Planner too. I try to get in there at minimum every week.
Yeah.
And usually about once a month, I go head to toe from top to bottom and make adjustments and calibrations. And, I think to your point, Mitch, is your business, the whole idea of a business is to be growing. And so that should be evolving and pushing the scope, really the scope of your business. Maybe it leads to other businesses, right? And things like that. Where I wanted to take you, Mitch, was something that Ron kind of tapped into. You picked up on what I was getting at about balance and integration.
Right.
And those are just words that sound cool if you think about it, because what you explained, Ron, is you have a day job. Those are your priorities. And you have this plan to launch a coaching business. And part of your strategy is to build blog content, but you kept pushing the priority of that down. So Mitch, you're integrated. Your podcast is part of your business. Do you have the luxury to push the podcast, the time that's needed for your podcast? Do you have the luxury to push it down, or will that actually counter serve your business by procrastinating and pushing off your next episode?
I mean, because it's the center of all of my content and marketing, it's very detrimental to my practice. If it was just something I did on the side because I like to talk about beer with my buddies, probably wouldn't stick with it, because I don't have that luxury. I'm a solopreneur for the most part at this point. I've been practicing law for 30 years. I got plenty of colleagues when I need them, but I like to run pretty lean at this point. So it's the center of what I do and the way I produce content, keep my name out there, keep ideas out there, share thoughts. So it's definitely part of my marketing plan. I mean, the podcast is a big part of it. It hasn't really taken on a life of its own.
Yeah. I mean, this is why I've stuck with my live streaming shows, is because it sets a date that both people that are like you guys that are going to be on the show and audience as well, I'm putting out a promise and a commitment that I'm going to do something. And there's no way around that. I mean, I could not do it, but that's bad for your brand.
Right. Of course.
So in that effect, I actually have stuck with live streaming. You guys see that I put a blog post together coming into the show.
Yep.
And there's two reasons for that. Part of it is to get the word out. But the other part of it is so that I know going into the show, I have a vision and a plan. Talk about not being accidental. I go into my shows with a game plan on what it's going to look and sound and feel like.
Yeah.
That's what I'm shooting for. Now I'll provide some advice. You have to be willing to be spontaneous and deal with, you have to be willing to, you have to have some maneuverability in there, but there is a plan in there. So that's integration.
Yep.
Right. When I talk about balance, I have a problem too. There's other aspects of my business that I do procrastinate and don't get to habitually. And I'm like, how do I integrate these functions into my work? Do you have any input for Ron, Mitch, for him knowing a little bit more about his situation, where he maybe doesn't have to get the blogs out, but if he wants to fulfill his plan, he does? I mean, put your business advisor, consultant hat on. What kind of input would you have for Ron?
Yeah, I mean, Ron's got the luxury of time to a certain extent, and also his transition, one doesn't really support the other. Matter of fact, they're a little contrary to each other. So he's looking to make the change from one career to another, although certainly bringing the knowledge and expertise from the first career to the second career. So it's difficult to But, I mean, look, I don't know how your day works and how your week works, but, I try to schedule things out, and if they pass, it just keeps reminding me until I, make sure I get to it. And it's kind of like it takes stress, but a lot of that's like practiced habit, and I think Ron knows that because he's a trainer. So, it's a question of sticking with your plan. And if you stick with it enough, it becomes a habit, and it's not something you get away from anymore. But nobody else can do that for Ron or anybody else listening. That's one of the problems with accidental entrepreneurship. It's something you should avoid. It's not a thing you should do.
Right. Work on a plan, work on a strategy. I mean, my input, Ron, for that is, and I think we've talked about this, is how can you develop, in your case, say a blogging strategy that isn't the redheaded stepchild, but's more integrated with your current day to day. So it's a relevant part of that. So, and I don't know the answer to that, but that would be a way to integrate, the two together. Because it is, the time you have is a curse, probably more so than a blessing. Whereas I think Mitch,
there's no
you and
call to
I are
action.
like, yeah, we need this, we need the podcast, we need this, we need that, because without it, the integrity of our marketing strategy isn't there anymore.
Right. Yeah. Definitely.
That's the real challenge there.
Yeah. Good advice. Thank you. Yeah. My wife likes to call it a paid hobby. Yeah. Right. And it is something I enjoy. It's something I'm pretty good at, and I've gotten some great results for people over the years. So actually blending the two together is more of my focus right now, to try to make the workload sort of make sense and sort of integrate, instead of try to balance the two jobs or two interests, if you will, not jobs. So yeah, it's been quite a challenge, but super fun, and met a lot of great people, and keep pressing forward.
Well, as we wind down here, I try to keep this to about 45 minutes. We've hit that mark, so I'd like to wind down here. But I'd love to just get maybe reaction from the two of you, starting with you, Mitch. I put forth a very unprepared wellness mindset segment. And I guess to recap, my point of that was we all need a routine to clear our minds, and just, I like to use the term be free, but I'd love to hear any your reaction on that segment, and maybe what do you do for yourself to keep your mind clear and keep your mental state in a good place.
This is for me, you're asking?
Yeah. What do you do for yourself for wellness, for a wellness mindset?
I mean, beyond, going to the gym 3 or 4 days a week, I am a big, I just big digester of content. I mean, I'm always looking for motivational things. I'm looking for things that are thoughtful. I don't really listen to music on the radio. I listen to business podcasts. I listen to historical podcasts. I listen to motivational things. I listen, I want to keep my perspective on things. And I find that in terms of the trials and tribulations of life, which, life doesn't happen in a straight line, right? So something always happens to somebody, and you got to deal with it to just, keep your perspective, not take things too seriously. I'm pretty good that way. I don't know if everybody that I know is pretty good that way, but I'm pretty good in terms of dealing with the ups and downs, and not take it too seriously, because you got to deal with it anyway. So,
am I hearing you right? Like, you find consuming, like listening to podcasts, even if it's business, that is, that's relaxing and therapeutic.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do. I find it therapeutic. My wife doesn't think it's therapeutic.
I have the opposite problem. Whenever I listen and consume info, it makes me want to go do more. And I'm like, oh, I got to do this and I got to do that. So for me, it's not therapeutic. It's more of a evil necessity. What about you, Ron? What do you do to keep your mind free and clear and in a good place?
Well, as you know, Ryan, a few months ago, I moved into the city, downsized, sold my house, and I'm renting in Philadelphia. So my life has changed dramatically in a number of ways, but from a physical and mental way, mentally, all of the stress of taking care of a house and a yard and a property and keeping up with the Joneses, so to speak, is completely gone. I mean, I'm looking out my front window now. There's one tree on the sidewalk that is, I guess, maintained by the city. We have no backyard, no grass, nothing, but there are places we can go for sure for that. But it's just been really, really freeing. So that's been a nice change for me, where I'm much more active because it doesn't pay to drive my car anywhere in Center City, Philadelphia, and park it to go somewhere. So I walk everywhere. And so I've getting lots of steps in, getting in better shape, lost about 10 pounds, even though we're eating our way through the city now. And I ride my bike like 3 or 4 times a week on various trails throughout the city, putting in, maybe anywhere from 15 to 30 miles a week. Nothing crazy, but so that's changed because it's really safe where I ride. I don't like riding on the streets or in the city streets or in country streets. I like riding on trails that are designed for that.
You get
Like
the nice
paved
ride
trails.
down. What's the road along the river on the north side of the river?
Kelly Drive.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a fun bike
Yeah.
ride.
Boathouse Row and all that stuff. Yeah, I do it all the time. So a lot of those sort of, I've been planted into a new place, so I'm adapting and I'm changing and I'm trying to integrate or balance, if you will. Personally, a few years ago, I was really turned on to the concept of meditation. A friend of mine, you may have met on Clubhouse, had his own meditation studio. So I watched him build that up and get into meditation. So I started doing meditation. I found that just traditional meditation didn't really work well for me. And then what I found was this concept, this product, I guess, called EFT. I think it stands for Emotional Freedom Technique or something like that. Anyway, it combines traditional meditation with pressure points. So you tap on parts of your your body, tapping. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And so I do this almost every morning, right? For anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes, all different kinds of tapping meditations through this app that they provide. It's a subscription service. It's pretty cheap. And it's just a great way, having been an ex-college athlete and done sports all my life. For me, I bought into not only the mental, but the physical as well. And I just feel like it's a really good blend. And so that's what I've integrated into my life. I think every time I open the app up, it tells you how many days you've tapped and what your streak is, how many hours. And I don't know, it's something like 6 or 7 hours or maybe more. I don't even know, 400 and something days. It's pretty crazy. But so I try to do that a lot. So there's a physical and a mental component to what I do for wellness. Not so much of the gym anymore, but I'm out and about and taking care of myself in other ways too. So,
yeah. Well, I'm gonna have to look into the whole EFT. It sounds like you're familiar with it, Mitch.
Well, I have a good friend of mine who's a mindset coach, and she's been trained in a lot of things, hypnotherapy, and she's a tapper. She knows tapping.
Cool.
Yep.
Well,
yeah.
Let's have her come up here for the next segment.
I could connect you with her.
That'd be
Nick, you'll come on your show. She's great.
That'd be great. I forgot that I had committed to doing the segment today, so I actually didn't fully prepare. I had an idea what I was going to do, but I didn't come fully prepared.
Yeah, she'd be a perfect wellness guest for you.
That would be great.
Okay.
All right, gentlemen. Well, great to have you here. Appreciate the conversation. Mitch Beinhaker, everybody, from beinhakerlaw.com, host and producer of the Accidental Podcast. Mitch, thanks so much for taking the time to tell us about your podcast strategy and your business practice. Very much appreciated.
Thanks for having me, Ryan.
And Ron, great to have you back here as well. Ron Sandell, sales and performance coaching. If you want the real deal, if you feel you need a sales/performance coach, Ron's your man. Just reach out to Ron. In fact, you can access him through the AutoConversion Network. I'm going to do a quick closeout, but I'll go ahead and let you guys go, and I'll just spend a few minutes closing out with the audience.
Thanks, Ryan. Bye, Mitch.
Take care.
All right. So I'm going to come back up here. We've got Mitch's website up here. And, I've only listened to a couple of episodes, but I learned some things. It's long form, one-on-one conversation, but he's got great guests. So I definitely would recommend that as well. This is the B2B Hour. I'm doing this every month. If you go so here's a post. We put out information so you can see who is going to be on. Now, if you want to get up here and be part of the experience, there's a couple of reasons why you might want to do that. One of them is you get to meet great people like Mitch, like Ron. You get to meet them, talk with them. So there is a great networking aspect, and hopefully you learn some things as well. We have two ways to get yourself up here. We have our private LinkedIn influencers group. What we do here, and remember, I told you the whole point of AutoConversion is we're a private digital community to help you engage and connect with customers, prospects, employees, and partners as well. So what we do is I come up here and I post an announcement that, hey, like here's the one for today. Okay, this went up about a week ago, and you have a chance here. This is an announcement that you have a chance to come up here and be on the show. Well, why would you want to do that? Well, I explain it down here. The benefit is you can be included in the live stream. You're included in the conversation, which I just talked about. And now we have sound bites. We can reference you in blogs, podcasts, videos, articles. These are all ways that we can help your media appearance. It's good practice for public speaking. It's great for exposure. These are the services that we provide. So head on over to autoconversion.net, look under Grow. We can also, anyone who signs up for one of our premium programs under the Get Started menu, which you can see we have quite an array. In fact, we just launched our new one. Oh, I hit the wrong button there. Sorry. I'm going to go here, Grow menu. Got to go to the Grow menu. These are some of these are free groups. So if you're a podcasting, if you're into multimedia, right, you could sign up for Audio Video Pros. If you're in automotive, we have automotive marketing, B2B marketing. That's who we have up today. We have a couple of paid programs here as well. In fact, look at our new program, Jolt Business Vision. If you want to take the business of yourself to the next level, and you want to have an online strategy for media and public relations, whether it's blogging or podcasting, this program is for you. Check out Jolt Business Vision. You heard me mention Dr. Lance Knob. That's who we do the program with. You get group coaching, one-on-one coaching, and you also get content. You get content creation out of that program as well. Excellent program to be a part of. So head on over to autoconversion.net. If you want to sign up just to be in the loop about the show, go to the watch section. You'll see a link to B2B Hour on AutoConversion. What else? You can text the keyword AutoConversion to 855-766-7585, and you'll get text messages from us about our programming. And yeah, I think that's it. Oh, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you get notified when we do go live. I am Ryan Girardi signing off. Thanks for being here. Thanks again to Mitch and to Ron. Have a great rest of the day, great rest of the week. It is hump day, and we'll see you about a month from now. Take care, everybody.